Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies, children who are for some reason allowed to listen to us say the phrase spin kicks and shit. Welcome to another exciting episode of FTW Fans Talk Wrestling, where we, wrestling fans, talk about wrestling, and you fans talk about us fans, talk about wrestling in the comments. We're your hosts. I'm Thomas Wolf.
I'm Travis Colt.
And I'm Kevin Hawk.
And I'm going to take a picture of that promo and I'm going to put it on a shirt and I'm going to give it to John Cena.
Watch that funny comedian guy clip.
If you haven't seen the 5-minute comedy rant on John Cena t-shirts, gold.
Link in the description.
Today is currently June 28th. It's a Saturday. We are less than 24 hours away from Money in the Bank. And we've had some... There's a little bit more money in there. And we've had some pretty interesting build towards the show.
Absolutely.
We're going to start off simply Raw. We got the announcement of who else would be joining Seth Rollins in the Money in the Bank contract match. And we've got an interesting group of people here.
A hopeful group of people put on a way more entertaining ladder match than the World Championship ladder.
So joining Seth Rollins, we've got other high flyers like Dolph Ziggler. We got Kofi Kingston, one of the kings of the ladder match. When you talk about kings of ladder matches, kings of any type of crazy match, we got RVD. We have Dean Ambrose. And then we got the two big guys. We got Jack Swagger and we got Bad News Barrett, the Intercontinental Champion. So this will definitely be a more fast-paced, dive spot craziness kind of
More
match.
of a traditional ladder match.
It's what we've come to expect from past years' Money in the Bank ladder matches, which I feel has slightly gotten downplayed a little bit over the last few years. They keep adding bigger people. They keep making it more about the former champions.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to bring what the original feel of the Money in the Bank ladder match was and bring it back.
We'll start off simply by talking about how Dean Ambrose got added to the match, because we had a match between two of the Money in the Bank competitors. We had Rollins versus RVD, which was a great match.
Yeah.
Kind of an awkward ending, I feel, because for me, it seemed too forced on RVD's part.
Yeah.
They just kind of fell into the spot. It made sense, but didn't make sense at the same time.
Right.
It was just weird.
He takes the buckle bomb, has a step out of the corner, then falls onto his hands and knees, which I can see was kind of awkward to watch, but at the same time, Van Dam timed it perfectly.
Yeah.
And then sold the stomp so well.
Dean Ambrose would come out and beat the high holy hell out of him, like he's been wanting to for the past couple weeks.
He didn't rearrange his face yet.
No, not yet.
No, they're saving that for pay-per-view.
Yeah.
that'll be SummerSlam. SummerSlam, you'll get the Seth Rollins gets his face rearranged.
Knife on a pole match.
Fuck! Don't give Dean Ambrose a knife, for the love of God. So the ending to this match would ultimately lead to Rollins demanding Triple H put Ambrose in the ladder match so he can keep his eye on him, but also have a chance of getting the contract. Because Rollins knew that if he was in the match, focused on the contract, Ambrose could attack at any moment.
Yeah.
And completely screw him over.
Yeah, I love the way this Dean Ambrose attacking Seth Rollins thing has happened, because it's not that Dean Ambrose can attack at any time. He will attack every time.
Yeah. It's just a matter of when.
And so Seth Rollins knows for sure Dean Ambrose is coming. It's not if. So if he knows where Dean Ambrose is, it's going to suit him better. And I think this was a lot more natural to add Dean Ambrose to this match than when Roman Reigns got added to the world title match.
And I feel like Rollins adding Ambrose in was the essential definition of the adage, keep your friends close but your enemies closer.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it's a creative way to get him in. It's smart business decision, and it adds an interesting dynamic between Triple H and his new golden boy, Seth Rollins. But Triple H ultimately said, if this blows up in your face, it's on you.
Yeah.
Specifically your face.
Specifically your face. You love that one.
I know.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays into the match on Sunday, what will happen afterwards. But as far as other people in that match that had a great match on Raw, we had Dolph Ziggler getting an Intercontinental title shot against Bad News Barrett in what was an unbelievable match. From beginning to end, these two, it's been a long time since I've seen, especially with two guys that are still kind of coming into their own, I guess. You know, Ziggler's been bumped down the card, and Bad News Barrett's like finally finding himself. They had instant chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
And they put on a hell of a show.
That definite match of the night. Like, when I saw RVD and Seth Rollins, I was like, this could be the match of the night. And it was a really good match. And then Barrett and Ziggler happened, and there was no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, it's, in my opinion, the Ziggler mentality of stealing the show. You know, not just the gimmick, but the way he runs. So, you know, after seeing the RVD versus Seth Rollins match, thinking those guys were good, now, hey, wait, we gotta do better.
Yeah, and you know, and you know Ziggler takes that very personal, and you know Barrett's trying to make a name for himself. He's actually doing a better job with the Intercontinental title than any of the last couple of people that have had the title.
Yeah, I think it's part thanks to WWE realizing they need to put a spotlight on the Intercontinental title.
I love the Intercontinental title is my favorite title of all time.
And it's part Wade Barrett just finally finding a character that works for him so well.
Yeah.
He's becoming more confident in his abilities.
Moving on to something else that was building towards another match we had this Sunday at Money in the Bank. We had singles matches between the members of the Wyatts and the Usos. There were two very quick matches. We got Harper over Jay, and then we got Jimmy over Rowan.
That was too much.
One of the most interesting things about this match is we had Rowan and Harper have their very own theme music. They didn't come out with Bray Wyatt initially, who ended up appearing after the commercial break.
Yeah.
When we came back to Jimmy versus Eric, we had Bray Wyatt out there. But we had Harper and Rowan come out to a harmonica version of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands that I thought was very strange.
Yeah.
I thought it was creepy.
I thought it was awesome because I thought it was strange and creepy.
It's still creepy, but I still feel like it needs to be a different instrument.
But not a banjo.
I want a banjo. So yeah, the Wyatt's music is interesting.
I like it.
I kind of hope they tweak it a little bit, but I guess I wouldn't be upset if they didn't. It is cool to see Rowan and Harper getting their own theme music, especially because they're breaking out and they're going to be doing the tag team thing.
Yeah.
And they don't have to rely on Bray Wyatt coming out every time, because obviously that's not going to happen Sunday at Money in the Bank.
Right.
So, on a smaller note going into Money in the Bank, we had Rusev beat up more black people.
No, here's my take on it. Lana, the ravishing racist, and the Bulgarian bigot, Rusev, on their quest for Aryan domination or something, I don't know.
Mother Rasha.
Mother Lasha?
Mother Rasha. You don't understand my accents.
Your accents are terrible.
I know. They're god-awful. So we had Rusev
squash Biggie,
destroy Biggie on Raw,
which doesn't make sense.
Which how
it doesn't make sense, because then we go to SmackDown. Jumping ahead a little bit, we go to SmackDown. They have all of a sudden, because he does a Pro USA promo, Biggie is reinvigorated to go against Rusev, and Lana has to back Rusev off.
Well, now he's got the power of the American spirit on his side.
Yeah,
he did have
American Spirit cigarettes.
Yeah, but Rusev's got that giant Russian flag.
No, to me,
and then it explodes.
And that concussion grenade that goes off at the same time.
To me, what doesn't make sense, like that, but also Rusev just destroying Big E because it's Big E. He's
supposed to be the strongest guy in WWE right now.
We mentioned last week that we weren't that excited with Rusev when he came into the Royal Rumble.
Except for spin kicks and shit.
Except for spin kicks and shit.
That was pretty cool.
Spin kicks and shit are cool. He's fallen back into that, why do you keep doing the same shit shtick? He's
dropped the spin kicks and added more shit.
Well, he still does his big super kick, which is awesome.
The jumping super kick to the face is pretty cool.
Yeah. And, he's a big guy, so the camel clutch works for him, but there's nothing else, and I'm really hoping that Big E gives him a run for his money this Sunday.
I think the character is just really one-dimensional, and he needs a new dynamic. There needs to be a new dynamic. There needs to be not the Russia versus USA gimmick.
Yeah, well, I think it could work
It'll work, but I mean, I think that it works as a catalyst for a personal feud.
Right. Well, what I think at least they should have done was give Rusev a rival before Big E, a Dolph Ziggler or an RVD, or someone who can really sell his power and really try their hardest to knock him down, and maybe get him down a couple times, but only after throwing everything they have at him for just minutes at a time. And then, when he goes against Big E, and Big E can run through him or slam him down, it's a huge deal.
Yeah, I think the one thing about the Rusev Big E thing is that they've had a long break between the last time that they got involved with each other, because Big E saved Hacksaw Jim Duggan from Rusev. And that was like their first like face off, but that was like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Really that long ago?
Yeah.
Well, they did have a match at Payback. They did. So I remember being really disappointed.
Big E and Rusev?
Yes. It might have been day of the show.
Huh?
Did that happen at Payback?
I think so.
Yeah, so they've already wrestled.
Well, then I could care less about the match of Money in the Bank then, because apparently they already had a match and I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Moving on from that potential shitstorm.
One more Money in the Bank related note. We had a rematch from last week's SmackDown. We had Wyatt, Cesaro, Del Rio, and Orton versus Cena, Reigns, and Sheamus. Ultimately, the reason I feel they did this is because at the end of the match, they had Kane come out, destroy everyone, and Triple H announced that Kane would be the 8th entrant into the World Championship ladder match.
Oh my god, I'm so surprised.
But here's the thing that annoys me. They keep doing this. Well, let's take the SmackDown main event and book it as the Raw main event booking.
Yeah. I've heard people say SmackDown's boring, and that's why.
Yeah.
That's why, WWE. That's why you don't got people watching more SmackDowns, because you keep doing the same matches on Raw. People are like, fuck it, I don't gotta watch Friday. I'll watch it Monday, because they do the same shit on Monday.
But it's better on SmackDown.
Yeah. When they do it the first time, it's, well, not always.
Not always.
Main events, usually.
Yeah. Here's the reason it's better on
Tag
SmackDown.
team matches.
Because you haven't seen it yet. That's why it's better. Plain and simple.
Watch SmackDown. SmackDown has got some gems.
There was a Divas match.
There was a Divas match. We had Naomi versus Alicia Fox. You know, Alicia Fox has been on her tirade, and we've got Naomi setting up for a championship match against Paige this Sunday. Now, during the match, we had Cameron and we had Paige on commentary. The match was great.
The worst commentary since Mike Adamle.
But if she could be on commentary for Alicia Fox versus Melina,
she would.
She'd be on cloud 9.
She wouldn't say anything. She'd just be screaming in excitement the whole time.
She wouldn't be able to contain herself.
If you get the reference we just made.
Yeah.
Put it in the
Okay.
comment
So
section.
I have kind of two things about that, and this is why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
First, I want to mention on the commentary, Cameron sucked. We've already gone over that. I love how
her
Paige,
commentary is at least worse than her wrestling.
Yeah, that's
She's
impressive.
better at wrestling than commentary, which is
fuck.
She isn't. It's not saying much.
But Paige, like she approached this like, okay, I'm gonna go out and do this segment. She treated this like an actual segment until Cameron just kept going and going, and then Paige stopped giving a fuck.
Well, Paige is just, she's professional. She knows what she's doing. She knows how the business works. She's grown up in the business. She knows what she's doing. But then when you get shit-talking McGee over on the other side of the table just running her mouth, Paige is like, fuck it. I'm just going to start talking shit back.
Yeah.
And she held her own against Cameron.
Yeah.
She had Cameron stumped a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
Cameron just kind of kept repeating herself.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
if I
Paige-
keep repeating
Paige
this
kind
good line
of
that I
kept
have.
repeating herself, but that's because Cameron didn't have a point. Like,
Cameron's,
Paige was like,
Cameron's stupidity went through the microphone.
Right. Paige was like, yeah,
Made them all
but you
stupid.
lost. Yeah, but you still lost. And, like, Cameron couldn't accept that, I guess.
All the commentators were thrown off their game except for Jerry Lawler, who stared at Paige's ass.
So,
that was the game he was all about.
That-
right now.
well, that's
the game that Jerry Lawler's on all the time.
okay, so there's... And then, about Alicia Fox. Because for so long, she was someone I recognized her as a talented wrestler, but I
Sometimes.
couldn't. Yeah, I could see some gems in her arsenal, but I couldn't get behind her at all. And then she started going crazy.
Yeah, the crazy Alicia Fox storyline definitely has me interested,
Yeah.
and it works on multiple levels because
It's entertaining.
because
It's really entertaining.
because they had her start when she was losing matches, and then she even did it when she wins.
Oh yeah, she does it to celebrate now.
Yeah.
Too.
And I love that Bradshaw is always worried about his hat.
Also,
Well, she stole it once.
Yeah, she's still
Also,
you got it back.
Alicia Fox, you need to keep that little sidewalk slam outside
That's a fucked up
For-
move.
for
That
the ropes, like.
that's
oh.
a fucked up move.
And the beautiful Northern Lights suplex with the awesome bridge.
I love your Northern Lights
Tippy
suplex.
toes.
And one last thing.
And she
because
does spin kicks and shit.
Yeah.
Alicia Fox # spin kicks and shit.
And I want to mention Naomi because they say that Naomi's the most athletic diva on the roster. She could be possibly the most athletic wrestler on the roster.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Funkadactyls when they first came on because I thought they were just a pretty face, but I knew that Naomi could work from her run on the 3rd season of NXT. When they had all the divas on NXT, I knew Naomi could do stuff. And she has definitely taken that to heights. She's doing the split leg moonsault. She's doing more athletic moves than probably the rest of the divas roster.
Yeah.
More than likely.
And so, with that said, I'm excited to see her get her Divas Championship match against Paige this Sunday.
Yeah.
And on a related note of Alicia Fox, if you agree with me in the fact that Alicia Fox has a 5-head, comment section. So that brings us to probably one of the more emotional Raw segments we've had.
Surprisingly
in a long time.
emotional. Like,
Yeah, going into the setup, we didn't expect it to be emotional, but obviously there's been rumors of Vicky Guerrero leaving WWE. I think they started back during, actually just before WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I think it was the first reports like Vicky was going to leave. A lot of people thought WrestleMania was going to be her last show, but ultimately we would have Vicky Guerrero reaping the consequences for what happened with Roman Reigns and the coffee last week on Raw. She'd be called out to the ring by Stephanie McMahon, and Stephanie would say, okay, we gave you specific instructions, you didn't follow them, so here are your 2 options. I can either fire you right now, or you can continue to be the general manager of SmackDown. But she had to win her match that night, and her opponent would be Stephanie McMahon.
And I feel like I'm alone in this, but as soon as I heard Stephanie McMahon versus Vicky Guerrero, my first thought was, oh my god, we have a not wrestler versus a not wrestler, and neither of them are Shane McMahon. This is going to be terrible.
But on the same note, they are 2 non-wrestlers that have lived in the world of wrestling for a very long time, so they do have a respect for the business. What would ultimately happen, after a great face turn by Vicky all of a sudden, where she said the line, if there's one name in wrestling that people respect more than McMahon, it's Guerrero. She would also say that if there was one thing that Eddie taught her, was to lie, cheat, and steal. Yes, it is 3 things, but it's 1 rule.
If there's one thing Eddie taught me, it's 3 things.
It's the rule of lying, cheating, and stealing.
If there's one thing Eddie taught me, it's not how to count.
Stop being technical. This is a great moment for Vicky Guerrero. Don't bring her down.
Don't bring her down.
Douche! So, that would set it in motion that we would be getting a Guerrero versus a McMahon for the first time on Raw. Ever.
True story.
So Vicky would come down to the ring to probably the biggest pop of her career when she came out to Viva la Raza!
I got chills.
Yeah, it was
I had a hard time holding in the fields.
a lot of feels in this moment. So Vicky's in the ring, she's waiting for her opponent, and Stephanie comes out in the dress that she was wearing earlier in the show.
Which also looked like it was made into the same material as a wetsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if the Heart Foundation was going
Scuba
scuba
diving.
diving, they'd wear Stephanie McMahon's dress. And she would say, "Well, Vicky, it looks like you're ready for your match, but unfortunately, you're in the wrong spot because our match will be taking place over here." And you'd see a giant tub of goop. So apparently, we were going to get the first woman to fall into the goop would lose, and that's when Stephanie would introduce Vicky's new opponents.
Yeah, I'm not that.
Did it feel random to you?
Yeah, it was really unclear what. It was clear what they were doing, but it was unclear what their official role was. But
I don't think they were opponents. I think they were just roadblocks put
away. I was so caught up in the moment, I didn't really care about the technical.
Yeah, nobody really cares about all that mumbo jumbo. They just were glad to see that apparently Vicky is the strongest diva of the roster.
Yeah,
and can overpower 3 divas.
Now that Caitlin's gone, the position's open. So.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I will never hate on a segment where I get to see Alicia Fox, Layla, and Rosa Mendez. I'm completely okay with that at any time during the show.
Yeah.
So they would proceed to triple team Vicky Guerrero, take her over to the goop, and just as they're about to throw her in, she would reverse all 3 of them, and in succession, toss
and then
them all
they just left. That was weird.
Well,
too.
yeah. Well, it's that was the rule of the match. Is if you get tossed in the goop, you lose. So you would stay out there.
I guess, but
unless you're Vicky Guerrero, which she'd
the
get.
match was over then, so.
This is true. So Vicky would get
Spoiler
cocky.
alert.
Vicky would get cocky after tossing all 3 of these divas into the goop. She'd start doing the yes chant, and then in what I think was supposed to be a boot.
It was a running knee.
It was a
I'm not sure what. Yeah,
Running knee from behind.
Stephanie would
because she couldn't boot in that dress.
That's true.
She's trying to do.
I mean, I was like,
she could have tried.
She's trying to do her husband's jumping knee attack from behind.
Triple H has been teaching her high knees. She would
because
high.
Trish couldn't teach him.
Yeah, we know how that turned out. So we'd have Vicky Guerrero go face first into the goop, and she would lose the match, in which we'd hear, which Stephanie's got it down, by the way. The Vicky, you're fired.
That wasn't bad.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Vicky Guerrero's career, but then Stephanie would get cocky. So Vicky Guerrero would ultimately get the best of Stephanie because Stephanie would start singing the classic song when someone gets kicked out of WWE, and it's na 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 hey. Which, by the way, that's one thing I really want to do at a show. I want to sing that at a wrestling show.
Yeah.
I think that's on my wrestling bucket list, is to sing that song.
Not mine.
You've seen Stone Cold Live, so fuck yourself. Vicky would be upset, and she would force Stephanie into the goop herself. Stephanie's just
Flailing around.
Flailing around. I can't say that. And Vicky would get her exit from WWE by leaving to Eddie Guerrero's theme and doing his classic shimmy. And that is the end of Vicky Guerrero in WWE.
For now.
For now.
I feel like she'll be back.
Yeah.
They let her go on such a high note. You know that there's good relations still between them. So we'll definitely see her back, but she's going off to do her own thing for a while. And so I guess we'll have to wait and see how Stephanie feels about being thrown into caramel pudding sauce.
Yeah. So that covers Raw?
Yeah, and that is the end of our Raw review. Let's send it over to Kevin Hawk with our first batch of indie wrestling stuff.
So my first segment of the week is going to be Indie Superstar Spotlight. Each week I'm going to pick, one superstar who I think everyone should get to know a little bit better than they do if they don't already, and do a quick recap of some of their career history. For this first week, I picked one of my newer personal favorites, Tim Donst, the mat wrestling machine.
He's a favorite of mine from Chikara.
Yeah. Donst trained at the Chikara Wrestle Factory, debuted on 4/22/07 in a trios match, didn't really pick up any steam or notice until he had a match with Eddie Kingston, where Kingston basically beat him from pillar to post, and the crowd started getting really behind him, and that's really where he got noticed. He would take the finisher of Ultramantis Black and be knocked out from it, and when he awoke, he decided he wanted to be part of the Order of the Neo-Solar Temple, joined up with Mantis, Crossbones, and Hydra. It would later be revealed that it was a secret ploy between him and Mike Quackenbush to figure out some of the Order of the Neo-Solar Temple secrets, and him and Hydra would leave the Order together and form the Sea Donsters. After losing a couple matches, Tim would turn heel, turn on Hydra, and beat him in a Loser Leaves Chikara match. The night after the Loser Leaves Chikara match, Tim Donst is revealed as the man under the Vocator mask when the BDK is formed for the first time ever. He plays a great supporting role in the BDK up until the BDK's start of declining down. King of Trios 11, he captains the BDK team. Also in the BDK in 2010, he beats player Donst for the Young Lions Cup Championship, which is something he would go on to talk about for the rest of his career at Chikara. After the BDK falls apart, he feuds with Hollow Wicked, the first ever Young Lions Cup champion, over who was the better Young Lions Cup champion, which culminated in a hair versus mask match with Donst lost. After that, he would start a feud with Eddie Kingston, attacking him after Kingston successfully defended the Chikara Grand Championship against Tadasuke at King of Trios the next year.
That was a good match.
And then later in the year, he would win the Torneo Cibernetico in the Team Chikara versus Team Ring of Honor Cibernetico that they did. But the next night on iPay-per-view and Under the Hood, would lose the championship match against Eddie Kingston. This would start Donst's character downward spiral into a depression of sorts, starting the I am pro wrestling, life isn't fair, karma isn't real gimmick, where he built what's now I guess referred to as the nest of Donst, with his followers Jakob Hammermeyer, Steve the Turtle Meter, and Veronica Ticklefeather.
Hey, turtle.
After that gimmick started, he had quite a few really good matches against Archibald Peck, and finished off the Chikara run with a feud against the ring announcer, Gavin Loudspeaker, which culminated in a match at Anniversario Never Compromise.
By the way, what the fuck did Gavin ever do to Donst?
Nothing.
Donst is a dick.
Donst is a bully. Where eventually the members of Donst's crew would finally realize they're better off without him. They'd all leave. Jakob ended up knocking him out, and Gavin gets to win. That match was also hair versus hair, so we get Donst shaved bald for the second time in a year, basically, almost exactly a year apart. And then it was sad to find out after Never Compromise and Chikara went on their hiatus, that in the middle of that hiatus I found out that Donst wasn't going to be part of Chikara when they came back.
Neither was Jakob.
Yeah. But since then, he's gone on to debut at Dragon Gate USA on February 22nd this year, beating Chris Dickinson. And I mean, now if you watch him, he's skyrocketing in AIW. He's at Absolution 9 tomorrow, going against Michael Elgin for the AIW Championship. So that's kind of a big deal. Another thing I'm going to do with these Indie Star Spotlights is Match to Watch. A match that I think is my personal favorite of this specific wrestler, and I think you guys will really enjoy it as well. and it's at Cybernetico and Robin, Tim Donst versus Mike Quackenbush, student versus trainer. And to me, it was the first time that I watched Donst and thought, okay, this guy's got potential to be a big time player.
Yeah, and on that note, Donst definitely became one of my favorites. Sad to see him not back with Chikara, but he is doing some good stuff.
I need to watch more indie stuff.
Yeah. I like the spotlight thing. It's a cool thing. Look forward to more of those in the future episodes.
And then the last bit of my Superstar Spotlight. If you have somebody that you would like to see featured on my Indie Superstar Spotlight, leave their name in the comments.